Trump finishing up a raucous rally in Dallas, Texas tonight. 20,000 people was jam-packed in the arena there. You see all the thousands outside watching on monitors. Friendo just texted me, who's in the audience there, and he said, I was born and raised in Dallas, live in Dallas, been to I don't know how many political rallies, but, quote, I have never witnessed anything like this. And this is from, someone who's kind of seen it all. Unbelievable. Plus, the left has already shifted the goalposts on the quid pro quo narrative in regard to the Ukraine issue, and some new problems for Adam Schiff. You'll not believe this tonight. Our legal eagles break it all down a little later on in the show. But first, to react to this, this was wild. If people thought after today the president was going to be kind of back on his heels and be kind of a quieter Trump or be a more, a more calm Trump, this was Trump. It was like the Alamo, come and take it, right? That last reference to the Alamo had the crowd, of course, on its feet. Tom Bevan here, co-founder and president of Real Clear Politics, Harmeet Dillon, attorney and Trump 2020 Advisory Board, and Matt Schlapp, chairman of the American Conservative Union, and Sarah Carter, Fox News contributor. All right, Matt, he is feeling at home in Texas. We've heard for years, really last 4 years, that Texas is becoming more and more blue. Namely, it's going to move to the Democrat column, and then it's over for the Republican Party. The president said, no way, never going to happen. What do you think when you see this tonight?
Two reasons why people say Texas is going to turn from red to blue. Number one, a lot of migration coming from California. And number two, obviously, a greater amount of diverse folks living there, especially Hispanics. Saw a lot of Hispanics in that crowd, saw a lot of signs. I obviously married to an Hispanic. I think a lot of Hispanics in America believe that this president has policies that these policies are helping them. And I think it's a big miss by the media to assume that Hispanics are turned off because of some jarring rhetoric about immigration. By the way, I think they agree with the president.
Yeah, they don't want the illegal immigration. It hurts their communities. We got to get to everybody here. Harmeet, you've been at big events with the president. You were just with him in the Bay Area, San Francisco, and California. You saw the energy as well, stuff that's not picked up by the media as they're obsessing about Mick Mulvaney's pause at a press conference and what people are interpreting that. They don't even talk about it. They don't even care about it. But this was Trump on the offensive tonight. He's not backing down.
That's right. And we see this kind of enthusiasm at all of his rallies and even in intimate gatherings. It's absolutely infectious. He's very relaxed. It's amazing for somebody who's under such vicious attack 24/7. But he's very confident. And I agree with Matt that the assumption that all the Hispanics are going to be Democrats is a false one. And it's kind of a racist one. So I think the California influx is still a concern. But if Trump pays attention there and has rallies like this, there are 30,000 more people outside. I think that it's going to be within our grasp to strengthen our hold on Texas.
Yeah, raise the stakes in the state. And I kept thinking, guys, about what we saw a couple of nights ago on stage in that CNN debate and their performance and how they stood and how they interacted with each other. And then I see this man who has had a full day. Okay, he does basically it was almost 2 hours, right? Or hour and a half, something like that. But he did all these events in Texas today. And then he goes out there and he just kills it. Okay, I just don't see that kind of enthusiasm anywhere else. And Sarah, the president laid out in no uncertain terms what the Democrats will do. Now, all of us on this panel had suggested that the president lay this out. Take it away from the bubble of Washington. What's the reality for the people if Democrats win? What's going to happen to our country? Boy, did he lay that out tonight. Let's watch.
They want to disarm law-abiding citizens. They want to take your guns away. And they want to install far-left judges to shred our Constitution. They want to tear down symbols of faith and drive Christians and religious believers from the public square. They want to silence your voices on social media, and they want the government to censor, muzzle, and shut down conservative voices.
This is what we've been talking about. They've tried to do it to us. They've demonized you, Matt, all of us, Harmeet. All of us have felt it, and he spoke about it.
Exactly, and this is what they do. They demonize, and they demonize, and they think by doing that somehow the American people are going to say, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe the Democrats are right. Maybe we aren't going to listen to Trump. But the reality is is that the American people are not stupid. They showed up. They showed up by the thousands in Dallas, Texas. They show up all across the country, and they continue to push for President Trump. Why? Because he's the only person that's actually listening to them, the only person that actually listens to the American people. And you asked, you know, he's out there. He had a full day. Why is he so comfortable? You know why he's comfortable? Because he's telling the truth, because he's fighting for something that he believes in.
He knows he's right about what America is and what America cannot become, I think. Now, he also revived, guys, this popular 2016 campaign promise and an issue that's in the news now a lot with Ukraine and Turkey and so forth, ending endless wars.
Endless wars. They don't stop. They don't stop. They go on forever. We become policemen. We end up becoming police. We're policing these countries. These wars brought mass chaos, instability, destruction, and death. Today, we choose a different path.
Tom, now inside the Beltway and the foreign policy elite establishment in New York, they have derided Trump on Turkey and his desire to pull troops back. But Texas is a state that has really sacrificed in Iraq, Afghanistan, so many men and women, so much heartache, so much loss. That got a huge response in the crowd. Is this a good issue for him to run on again, though?
I think so. I mean, obviously, you know, I was just in Washington yesterday, and we spent all week talking about Syria and the Kurds, and you saw the disconnect on display with Trump out in the heartland now making his case, and the response that he got about bringing troops home, rebuilding the military to keep it strong, but also bringing troops home and to end endless wars. It's something that he did run on. It's something that has widespread support across the country. I think the only thing that Trump, you know, runs the risk of here is if ISIS reconstitutes itself and starts creating some havoc before his election next November. But if that doesn't happen, there is widespread support, and it's a definite disconnect between what people in sort of, you know, the heartland think in real America versus what everybody's talking about inside the Beltway. Yeah,
and Matt, we remind ourselves of what happened to McCain in 2008. He was going to do Bush 3.0. What happened in 2006 when we lost the House, the Senate. Of course, what happened in 2012 with Romney. That type of republicanism is not popular. And yet the neoconservatives keep pushing. And I think Trump is pretty gutsy and bold and confident to say, you know, we got a lot of problems here at home. We got a lot of people sleeping on the streets. We got to take care of our own people, some of them still suffering, even with this incredible economic recovery that he laid out.
And remember, Ronald Reagan's peace through strength was never about military strength in every corner of the earth. The peace through strength idea was America had to get itself strong.
So it could defeat the Soviet Union.
Economically and every other way.
Trump's thinking of China.
That's right.
What are we going to have to fight China if we build it all in the Middle East?
It's not all about troops and bullets and guns and bombers, although that's important. And you want to have them. You want to take people out when you need to. But you can't lead with that.
Harmeet, I think the economy still remains the #1 issue for most people. Obviously, you have Pelosi out there today. And yesterday after the White House meeting, rushes out to the cameras, a lot of theatrics. Oh, he was mean to me. She's pointing at him. I just think that you look at Texas, it's exploding with economic growth. There's a reason people are moving there. They know what's going to happen with a wealth tax, ending fracking. Trump talked about that. He's like, Lincoln couldn't get elected in Texas now if he had those policies. So all these things that they would do, he's beginning to write that narrative clearly in these rallies versus just doing all the golden oldies. He's starting to write that narrative. I think that is very smart because people have to understand the stark choice that's in front of them.
And Laura, being very specific, he talked about the economic growth just in the Hispanic community, 8% wage growth, people over $50,000 average wages. The Democrats have no answer to that. They don't talk about those facts and figures because they don't work for them. It's a different America, dystopian America, gloom and doom and social redistribution. And that's not what the America is that the Texans who are there and the Americans who are attending all of his rallies see. And so there's a real disconnect between the story that we saw on that debate stage and what we're seeing throughout the rest of America. He's really channeling that and tuning into that.
Everybody says when they come up to you, come up to us on the street, what's going on in Washington? When you travel outside of this place, Hannity always jokes like you're in the swamp. He's right.
It's true.
You travel
in the bubble.
outside of the Acela corridor. You go to America, Texas, go to Middle America, maybe not so much in the Bay Area, but you go, and then people say, what is happening in Washington?
That's exactly right.
And they're afraid
Even
because
here,
they think
wages
this is
are rising here, too. So it's actually all over America.
Right. Wages are going up. And, Sarah, here's what Trump said about Biden's troubling ties to Ukraine. He didn't back down from that at all. Watch.
No.
Joe Biden was in charge of Ukraine policy while his son, with absolutely no energy experience, just got thrown out of the Navy like a dog, was paid massive sums of money by a Ukrainian energy company. You know what that's called? It's called a payoff, folks.
Sarah, at one point he said he didn't even know he had to even talk about Biden anymore because he's become a weaker candidate. The new Iowa poll set, shows him up a couple points, but he's clearly fallen.
Well, I think President Trump knows that, but I think what he's pointing out is what the American people are so angry about. And the reason why they call this the swamp, right, is because of these ideas, because people like Joe Biden, Vice President Joe Biden, can have his son on the board of a Ukrainian energy company that is at that time was being investigated for corruption and getting paid what people believe is over $50,000 a month. Now, if President Trump, and he brought up a great point, if that had been one of his kids, if that had been Ivanka, if that had been Eric, if that had been Don Jr., the media would literally be dragging him through the mud. There would be an impeachment. I mean, this would be the biggest story of the year. Instead, the Democrats want to bury this. They want to turn the tables on Trump. They want to blame Trump for exactly what they were doing. And Trump's not guilty of anything.
Tom Bevan, do you think this impeachment narrative, the saga as it's playing out, the breathless commentary from the anchors on the other cables, the nonpartisan anchors, do you think for Americans watching this election season, it's in full bore now, it's totally revved up, does that motivate them to go to the polls? They see the Pelosi drama with impeachment and all that. Or are we overstating how the disconnect that we keep talking about today?
Well, I mean, we are 13 months away from the election, so we'll have to see how this all plays out. I mean, it certainly, after the impeachment push began, it certainly galvanized Trump's supporters and Trump's base. But whether that lasts, we'll have to wait and see. I think the politics of impeachment are not totally clear. Certainly, Republicans think that it's going to play to their advantage. The Democrats are going to overplay their hand, and Democrats think that they'll be able to beat the president up in advance of the election. I just want to make one quick point back to Texas and Hispanic vote. I spoke with some RNC officials yesterday when I was in Washington, and they said they've seen a 20-point jump in President Trump's approval rating among Hispanics in Texas since 2016. He won 34% of Hispanics in 2016 in Texas, and they represent 1 in every 4 voters in that state. So if that metric is true, if their numbers are right, there's been big movement in support among Hispanic voters for Trump in Texas.
1 to 10 chance that Democrats could take Texas, Matt. 10 being the most.
Half of 1. I mean, I really.
It's just not going to happen.
They're just not there.
I mean, I don't want to be too cocky here, but this. I mean, I spent too much because I spend more time in Texas than any other state, other than like Virginia and D.C.
It's smart they're not taking it for granted. I love seeing him in these states. Let's make them solid.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Great panel.